Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. It is Sunday morning. Excuse me. I almost said Friday. It is Sunday morning. Uh, and we'll get started with our session. If we have any questions and or comments from yesterday. On yesterday, we talked about a couple of different things. We kind of blended some things together, and I remember starting off being a little apprehensive about it because there was things that I did not see that I thought uh, kind of were good talking points, but didn't have any conclusions. And when we start unraveling it with the questions and everybody answering and pulling our energy together, we came up with a good lesson on yesterday, and I hope some valuable understanding. So yesterday's lesson was stemmed from last week's discussion in looking at the role of the wife and that obedient thing with her husband. I did not think about looking at it anyway from Paul's perspective. I liked it from Genesis because I think it points to uh, what God anyway had intended, uh, and it shows us that this thing that we have always called a fall, meaning a mistake or an error or some disobedience on the part of on the part of the Adam. I hope by now don't see it that way. This was an inevitable part of our discovery of self, and looking at that from a closer perspective, we see that the atom being masculine and feminine energy, and the inner twine of that, the dancing with it, and we went back to creation story when we looked at the relationship between the heaven and earth, and good and evil and light and darkness, and we even uh, talked about, which I thought was a very useful and brilliant example that Rainier gave on last week when she talked about her relationship with her husband Joe, uh, and I also talked about these musicians that I heard and how they feed from each other and pick up on each other's energy, and it is not you are the lead, but you are the lead, but it doesn't matter. Someone has to pick up the pen first, or the right or the left hand. They don't argue over who's going to pick up the pen, but it becomes a tool for whatever is needed. So that dance, that interplay, that oneness is a unique spiritual quality that we were trying to unravel on yesterday, and looking at that, and I even uh, you know really appreciated the example that George gave when he talked about driving a straight shift, and looking at the relationship not only between those two, the gas pedal and the clutch, but the relationship between the right and the left foot, and the hand that's the right hand that's putting the car in gear. That's all the timing thing, and the car does not move without it. So it all part of the interplay that we're talking about, and the beauty of it all, and how that can bring us balance. Is there any questions about this, or anything you guys see that we may have omitted, or something I forgot to say? What are your thoughts? Where are we on this? Okay. Well, I hope that means we're okay then. We have understanding. The just a couple of things I guess I wanted to kind of clear up and make sure we uh, understand. We were because we talked about this from the perspective of cleaning it up and the relationship that Adam has with the Creator, uh, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We even talked about, verse 16 in chapter 3 of Genesis, your own husband. This is the Creator talking to the feminine energy, and he says you should desire your desire should be for your husband. I thought that was interesting when we looked at it on yesterday, uh, and we talked about it from the perspective that if we look at the tree of knowledge and good and evil, that who did that belong to? It belonged to Elohim. So it belonged to us. It belonged to all of us. There is uh, something there though that we see. Uh, there is that part of Ron. There is that part of Barbara. There is that part of James. There is that part of Charles, and we all. We are all the universe. I myself am the universe. You yourself are the universe. And then there's when we come together and bring all of that together that we see and make change. So the aspect of your husband, it means that there is a feminine aspect of Ron. There is a masculine aspect of Ron. That is the world. That is the universe that I am. And so I don't be concerned with what goes on in Barbara's house or Pastor's house or Charles's house, or my focus is not from an external perspective. With him, with this conversation coming to the feminine aspect, tells you that it is an intuitive thing. This is internal. This is looking at the soul. It is looking at that still voice in you. This is looking at your meditation, looking at your prayers, looking at the inner part of you, that flickering light, that part that becomes impregnated with these concepts that we discuss. I mentioned on several times. You hear me say, I see something that I can't see, or something else is there. It hasn't settled with me. All I'm saying is the masculinity knows that there is something that he needs to get out of the way for. There's a part of me that recognizes, okay, there's something here. We can't see it with you because you're standing in the way. So my masculinity moves so the femininity can focus on what is there. So there's those sides of me are my yin and yang, if you will, my good and evil, my light and darkness, and that is the world. And those are the voices that I'm concerned with. And it is in stealing those voices and listening to that builds me and moves me in the direction that I am to go. And that's my focus. And each one of us looks at it from that perspective. So that's the your husband kind of thing. The other thing I said yesterday, I got off the phone and thought about it, wanted to clear up, is I said that what one day we're going to find or see. Wait a minute. First, are there any questions about that part of it? Any questions about what I just said? I don't want to move too fast. Okay.
Ron, this is Evelyn.
Yes. Hey, Evelyn.
Yeah, I was. Good morning. I was listening to you. Yeah, we are in our way. we are one of the reasons why we cannot receive a lot of information from the universe. So I just wanted to say, yeah, you're right. We are in our way. And when we let that ego, when we put that ego in check, I believe we'll be able to receive and to do more and become more aware of who we are and things that's, that's going to benefit mankind in general. That's all I want to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Evelyn. That's very well said. You're exactly right. And that's our transformation. It is a growing process. That's our transformation. And when I get to a certain place with this, I wanted to talk about just that. What does balance look like, and how do we do that? We've touched on that before. I want to look at it again because I think as we see more, we revisit some of these things. So thank you.
Yeah, good morning,
Anyone
Ron.
else? Yes, sir. Hey,
Yeah,
how we doing?
good morning, everyone. Yeah, good morning. This is George. I think in terms of just what has been said, and I think that we have examples, in reference to Rainier, speaking with her husband, but when we realize, the all is one, and we appreciate, that oneness and that balance, I think it resonates with us in terms of us being able to look at it, from, the period of beginning, when we can talk about, how the dominant world views have shifted in terms of various paradigms from the beginning. Because in the first spirit paradigm, if Elohim is everything and everything is Elohim, then all is one. And if this was the first spiritual paradigm, and there's, actually four, I think what we're coming into an awareness of is the importance of, the masculine and feminine energy, not from the physical perspective, that we have both those aspects of our spirituality in us. But if we now can realize that we're having a better understanding in terms of God the Father and how it was coerced in a way that we left out the Great Mother, which was the second spiritual paradigm. But I think that as we, now come into this awareness of the new, when I say the new human, not that anything is new, but we're gaining a better understanding to appreciate the truth, the love and the light, the energy that you're bringing to existence. And so, there are some, concepts of the spiritual paradigm where it all is now moving towards that integrated Godhead, which is happening now. I just want to share those thoughts. Any questions?
Yeah, I appreciate it, George. But if you don't mind, just naming these, and maybe we can talk about them, or either later today or right now, if you prepare. You said that the four spiritual paradigms. So you named two of them, right? The Elohim, the Creator, and Mother. Because we did kind of religious kind of took that out of the equation for us. What are the other two that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, well, the other two, Ron, in terms of the first spiritual paradigm, when we talk about all is one, this was at the time where we talk about the Big Bang in terms of the 14 billion years before the Common Era, and then there was a paradigm shift that related to the Great Mother being the deity. This was around the time of the 25,000 year 5,000 range, which we talked about the Homo sapiens sapiens. Then we moved on a little bit in terms of a third, which you was asking about, Ron, which is the gods and the goddesses. Okay. And so we're talking about, the oneness now in terms of there's no separation. I mean, in the beginning, we talk about God created us in our image and likeness. So the gods and the goddesses were there during that third spiritual paradigm, which was around the 5050 era. Now, this is where the Christianity came into manifestation in terms of the fourth paradigm that talked about God the Father. And I think Pastor was maybe sharing a little bit about that yesterday, when we have been so caught up in the teaching of God the Father that we knew that the original Trinity, was again, God the Father, Mother, and Child. But during that around the 50th century up to the 2012, we've heard so much emphasis about God the Father. But I think yesterday we were kind of really relating it more in terms of which the fifth paradigm is now manifesting, is that is the integrated Godhead, where, the two become one. And I think it made me think about, Rainey a little bit, when you shared earlier how they were able to come together, to be in oneness in reference to, being the spiritual entity that they are. So that's the kind of, the five line that just I kind of wanted to share as an overview, but I appreciate you letting me share that.
Yes, sir, and would like to hear more. So maybe at some point, I think today it might take us in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, whenever you're ready, man, I'd like to hear more about that. Give me time to look at some stuff too. Okay, thank you, George.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? Is there anyone else? The other thing I said yesterday, and I want to make sure that this doesn't offer any confusion to anybody. I said we're moving into a place where we will be, our feminine energy will be dominant. And guys, the only way we can really see this, we have to stop seeing gender. We have to stop seeing males and females. This is total energy and spirituality. All I meant by that is we're going to move to a place where, as you heard me say, I can look at scripture, hear something like the discussion we had last week. I got off the phone and I said, there's something else to this, something else I don't see yet. And if I leave it that way, I never see anything. Or if I, masculine energy dismisses that. Masculine energy just says, they just, they always got something going on. Here we go again. Something else is coming along. Why can't they just leave scriptures alone? But I move my masculinity out of the way and say, no, there's something here. So I want to get to the place where that is transparent. There is no moving it out of the way. I am who I am, and what dominates me is what needs to dominate me. Again, and I'm glad Raina used as an example. I hope she don't mind that we keep bringing it up. But the relationship that she described, the decisions that they make, has nothing to do with I'm masculine, I'm the male, and you the female. It has nothing to do with that. It's what is best for the household, what is best for the children, what we need to do here. Whatever is being discussed, what is the best decision for the big picture for us? How is this going? What is this going to look like? Those type of decisions. So that's what I mean by that. It is almost like you ever seen older people that finish each other's sentence and how close they are. It is no longer. It grows to a point where it is no longer, even by them at least, notice that the masculinity, the male or the female, we are who we are. We are one. And it's almost like if you ever seen Sinbad's stand-up comedy, one has a good left hip, one has a good right hip. One has ears to hear and the other one can talk. And one has ears to hear and the other one can see. And they stand together. They are one. They become one. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So we move to a point where we are guided by our soul, and we no longer have to stop and think or have these not confrontations, but these inner conflicts as to what is the proper resolution. what is it we want to see, because what we want to see is not only better for what is best for us, but what is best for mankind, and not based on what is external. So I hope that kind of helped in that direction. If someone else can further explain that or elaborate on it, it would be appreciated.
Good morning, everyone. One of the things that I see in feminine energy and masculine energy is whatever my association with feminine energy is going to be my downfall. And what I mean by that is everybody that I hang around, they loud. They rough around the edges. Now, they good people. They just loud. Like I say, rough around the edges. That's my association with feminine energy. Now, people who are harmless and innocuous, I'm nervous when I'm around them. I see they're not trustworthy. It's like if I'm on Kennington Avenue in Philadelphia, the heroin addicts and all of that, I see them as pretty much cool. But that elderly Asian lady, I see her as someone who can pick my pockets. So whatever my association is with feminine energy is my downfall. And with other people that I've just observed, their association with feminine energy is harmless. So when people come up and tell them something, they never ask why. Now, if someone that's loud comes up to them, they want to know why. So that's one of the things that I try to work on. Of I need to start embracing people who don't raise their voice, and which I do. I'm pretty balanced in that. Yet there are some other people that walk around life, they think feminine energy is harmless, and people who are loud can never get to them. And those are the people that's not going to harm them or con them. It's the people, in a nutshell, whatever your association is with feminine energy, them the people going to do you in. If you think feminine energy is harmless, it's harmless people that do you in. And I hope you understand that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. I hear what you're saying. I think we're talking about two different things, though. The one thing I see and I like, I was at a game a couple of weeks ago, and a bunch of kids were out there in the parking lot, and the black kids were a lot louder than the white kids. There's a bunch of kids out there. And what I see in that, and I may be talking about something totally different than what George just said, but it was just something that I noticed. He reminded me of that when he was talking. What I see in that is we'll celebrate anything. We're just a jovial people. We especially when we're around friends and family, a bunch of us get together, we're happy. And you may not have money in your pocket, you may not have a ball to play with. We're gonna find something to joke on somebody about, or to find something to amuse us. So that's, to me, part of who we are. So it just, you just made me think about that when you said that. You said the people that are loud, those are are the ones that are harmless to you. And I take what you mean by that is you're gonna know what they're feeling. They're gonna say what's on their mind, and you're gonna know what they're feeling. So yeah, I was trying to see how to fit the rest of it in, and I'm not quite sure just yet. But thank you for your comment. It just reminded me of something that I saw a couple weeks ago. But anybody else, can anybody else speak to that? Okay, you guys are quiet today.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Well, it's something I want to put out there. A lot of these things, what we talk about, is all in us. The reason I'm saying it's all in us, because I was watching a cartoon with my little grandbaby years ago, and the little two imps come up on both sides of his shoulder. And just like what's something that said, our ego always tries to push you to do things without even thinking about it, or not only thinking about it, make you do things that you know is not right, but you want to do them anyhow, your way. Yeah. But the spiritual sits on the other side and be telling you, you ought to think about that. That might not get you, what you want. You might have to just leave that alone for a moment. But all those two is trying to get you mobility to do what they keep whispering in your ear or in your mind to do. And that self is ready to pounce on whatever they say. And that's what I got out of that cartoon. And I mean, a lot of cartoons, it shows you spiritual things, but if you don't watch it good enough, because I had to watch it with my little grandbaby. And I mean, everything's been done, it's been done in front of your face all day long. And all the stuff that we're reading and understanding in the Bible is all in us. But we just been, I ain't saying brainwashed, we just been been programmed to do it the way they say do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Charles.
I do it.
Can I comment, Ron?
Of course.
Charles, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I'm going to say it. We've been brainwashed.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Yeah, it is. But
because, what the church teaches about feminine and masculine, and how, the woman should be quiet and the husband make all the decisions. The husband is the head of the household, blah, blah, blah. How do we get people to think about that in a new, different way? Because that ain't it. It really isn't. Because I mean, we've been brainwashed to think about it in that way, to the point where sometimes women don't have a voice in their household at all. And I think that's partly what leads to a lot of domestic abuse too, when women try to have a voice, and their husbands, who are so, and I know it's not everybody, but their husbands who've been taught this thing that they should be in control, dominant, head of the house all their lives through the church. I feel like this is one of the factors that leads to domestic abuse, because in the case of men who think women shouldn't have a say, and so they feel threatened when the woman does want to have a voice in things. So anyway, how do we get past this brainwashing that's happened already?
Well, it goes back to what I'll reiterate it again. You know, one thing I'm grateful for with my friends, all of us know how to work with one another. And like I say, society, or capitalistic society, is going to condition you. You got to work for someone. Go on out there and find a job and work for someone. Or go on out here and start your own company up out here and have someone work for you. We got to start buying into working with one another. This whole thing of criminal domestic violence, people out here just want to be abusive. Um, and there are some females out here. Guess what? They want to run that out, and they just as abusive as the man. Y'all may not believe that, yet I have friends who are in law enforcement on state level, city level, federal level. They'll tell you, females kind of violent out here,
Oh, I
just
agree
as
with you,
much as
George.
the men.
I agree with you, George.
Yep.
It's just the motivation is different.
Yeah,
Well,
well, violence is, if we could learn to work with one another, you know, because when you work with one another, if if I ask Ron, hey Ron, I gotta move something, and Ron is lifting 40% and I'm lifting 60, man, as long as we get the job done or the task done, what matters? You know, it's just that we don't know. When I say we, I'm talking about 1970, 1971 African Americans on up to now. We don't know how to work with one another. When you look at them Puerto Ricans, boy, them Puerto Ricans know how to work together. When you look at the Mexicans know how to work together. And you can look at it by way of who you think got the highest infidelity rate, African American, Puerto Rican. Who you think got the highest infidelity rate, African American, Mexican? The Mexicans and Puerto Ricans know how to work together. Number one, they keep their dollar in their own zip code a little longer. So when you can do that, you know you gonna gain some spiritual profit. So this whole thing of masculine energy, feminine energy, if you don't know how to work with people, you're gonna lose. And then when mother and father and kids are looking at, they need to see mom and daddy work together. They don't need to see daddy making all of the decisions in an abusive way. Neither do they need to see mama making all of the decisions in an abusive way. Learn how to work together, but we got ego.
I hear what you're saying, George. However, there is a really high prevalence rate of domestic abuse in Mexican households, and I would warrant in Puerto Rican households too. And I think a lot of it comes from the kind of culture that the church has established. I really do believe that.
And I agree with you. I'm just saying which one got the highest. But that's neither here nor there.
well,
Learn how to work with people.
I think to answer
That's
your
it.
question,
Thank you.
to answer your question, how do we get past that, get past the brainwashing, is number one with the truth, by shedding light on what is. Because all of this started with with toxic masculine ego. And because men looked at a situation where they wanted to be in charge, they wanted to be the top dog. So they put these things out there. And my thing, and Les and I just had this conversation this morning, is that grown people don't have to tell people they're grown. if you really thought you were a superior race or gender, you don't have to oppress anyone else. Your superiority will come out. And a lot of it, and it's just based on ego, the masculine ego. And the way we combat that and change those things is for men to be advocates for the truth and for what is. And yes, the society has put a larger emphasis on what you do financially other than what you do other ways. Because now they're talking about, the one thing you hear in media that goes along with the brainwashing is how much money women make now. Now you have women making more than their husbands. That's not what it's about. What it's about is, what can I do to contribute to my household? Whether it doesn't matter if it's an income or if it's taking care of kids or taking care of the house or making sure, because I'll tell you that in my house, we make decisions equally. If we have this, we have discussions. We had it when it came to child rearing. We have it when it comes to everything. Now, what Leslie goes out, she has to, I'll tell you, our financial well-being is based on her. Because I'm running I'm starting 2-3 businesses. So that's on her. But what do I do to contribute? Everything else that needs to be done in the house. And she values my contribution just as much as she values hers, because she values me as a person. And that's what we have to get back to. It's not what can you do for me, is that we are one. We are, spiritually, emotionally, we are one. We are a unit. So my left hand doesn't always do what my right does, but they're part of the same body. I don't value one more than the other. And I think that's what we have to get back to, is that we are truly created equal. And that's it. I mean, we all have our own piece that we add to society and that we add to our group. Everybody can't add the same thing. Like George said, if we moving something, I'm moving 6% and you moving 40, it doesn't matter as long as we get the object moved. Well, we should be focusing on getting towards the light. We should be focusing on what gets us closer to the truth. And when we put our focus on that, none of that other stuff matters. We get rid of the toxic masculinity, we get rid of the ego, and we break through the brainwashing when we focus on the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. I agree with that. I agree too that what Audrey said, I think it starts in the church. I think that broken masculinity and that false bravado that you see started in the church. We talk about this and we've talked about it in the past, where we look at this thing called white privilege and how people fight hard to hold on to that. Although they see it and they know, if you judge from right and wrong, they know that it doesn't match what's in the scriptures. They see it, but it is an energy of comfort. It is an energy of well-being. It is an energy of wealth. So it's hard to let that go. Well, that same type of negative energy it's got into the Black church. The same type of energy wants to hold on to that masculinity, and it wants to dominate the Black woman, even though we know that that's not right. The hitting, the verbal abuse, it is that same energy. This benefits me. This is who I am, and I'm going to fight to hold on to it. We have no idea who we are. Jesus came into the earth calling himself the Son of Man, saying, don't forget that you're human. Don't forget who you are, and what you're created to be. And we are so far removed from that. So I agree with what everybody said. I do think, though, the church is in a large part responsible for that, because although it sees it, it does nothing to change it. Because as somebody said, we value money in the making of a dollar. I think Craig said that. that is what is more valuable in the earth than doing what is right. And as long as we see things that way, that will continue to be the case. But I have to believe that what we're doing right now has benefits in that area and moving energy in the direction that it's supposed to go. It is hard for me to believe that bringing enlightenment to anything doesn't have an effect on every particle of darkness in the earth. I have to believe that, or we might as well stop doing this. So I hold on to that faith and say that we are too making headway in that direction as well. Thank you.
Ron, I would like to say something. I love everything everybody has said. It's just amazing how we really don't, sometimes we don't know how far we've come. But anyway, the reason why I think we always say that we don't work together, African Americans, is because we're always under the microscope. We've been told that we don't work together. And the more we keep that concept in our head, that thought in our head, we'll never move forward. We got to stop saying that we don't work together because, again, we're always under the microscope. And until we change the way we think about ourselves, start knowing who we are and loving ourselves, we'll get past this brainwashing thing. Everything starts with how you feel and how you look at yourself. So we got to stop saying that. And remember, African Americans are always under the spotlight. Everything we do, say, except a lot of the good stuff, most of the good stuff, they always focus on the negative part. I wish we get past that we don't work together because I believe that's in every culture. But again, the African is always under the spotlight. So let's get past we don't work together and change our thoughts about that. That's all I wanted to say.
That is an excellent observation, and I appreciate that. You are absolutely right. We need to change our view of ourselves, how we see each other, regardless. And as everybody has said, that I just started off, the brainwashing is real, and we've bought into it, and we do see ourselves as less than. We're not able to get over that hurdle. And that is, I'm going back to the movie thing we talked about several weeks ago. That's what I like about this movie. It is, to me, the movie is an example of God moving in a way that people never thought you'd see God, meaning that this is showing a positive side of Africans and showing you, inviting you to do some research, inviting you to look at who you are before slavery. So you will know why we are always jovial. You'll know why we're loud. You'll know why we're act the way we do when we get together. So all of this kind of falls into place, and let that be our guide, Evelyn, rather than who people say that we are. So I agree with you.
Ron, this is Rainia. I wanted to say something to what Evelyn said. My example growing up was that we did work together. And mostly that was also because we were family. And he talked about Mexicans working together. I have this guy who does my yard, and he knows I need other projects done. He's like, well, my brother can do this. My other brother can do this, and that's how I felt like with my dad, because he would do things, but his brothers could do things. And I go back to considering everybody family, because that's the other thing you hear, like in Indian culture, where every elder is auntie or uncle. This idea that we are connected, that we're family, I think is, we do it for family easy. Well, why can't we all be family? I guess is what I'm going for.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And my upbringing was similar, Rainy. My dad had 13 brothers and sisters. And boy, were they close. You raise up 14 kids in one little house. I'm talking about a 2-bedroom house. but they were so close. And I sit there and I watch them interact and do something. And somebody would say, all these kids here, we need to do something. We need to eat. And they get together, get some lumber, build a table right there, and barbecue a pig or kill some chickens and have a picnic right there in a matter of hours. Somebody's truck broke down. Can we get it over here? And they pull it on the tree. They pull the motor out, do whatever they want to do to it, and put it back in and watch it drive home. And I'm like, wow. My family was a community within themselves. And you've heard me talk about the guy that broke down on the highway, and my dad towed him home, and he spent the night at the house and had the whole community out there working on that man's car. They gave him money, they gave him food, and sent him on his way. Community. So we're not that far removed from it. We just need to be reminded. Oh, great example.
Well,
And
everyone, I agree with what everyone has said. Like I say, born in 1970, born in 1971, we don't have the gifts that Earth, Wind, and Fire generation all the way back to Cab Calloway got. And we do need to start working together. Ron, you from a different era than I am, yet it's kind of close. You know more about the Dewey Decimal System than I do. I know about the Dewey Decimal System, yet my children, all they know is www. You write the research paper for me. My era of African American, we got everything for free. We can go to Mona Mia anytime we want to. We can sit in that bus anytime we want to. We ain't had no struggle. I don't know. Eventually we'll figure it out. All I can tell you is, in my era of African American at 51, you want to have a good conversation, all you gotta do is talk about Chick-fil-A. All you gotta do is say something about them Dallas Cowboys. All you gotta do is talk about an all-inclusive resort. My era, we ain't trying to talk about no retirement. We ain't trying to talk about spiritual profit and loss. We don't do that. Not as much as the generations before us. Yet eventually we'll figure it out, though. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thought I heard someone else coming in as well.
I'm listening to this whole conversation, and I'm thinking, about how, if you're in the 70, 71 generation, it's going to look different. Working together is going to look different. If you want it to look exactly the way it did in prior generations, it's not. So whatever your expectation level is when you're looking for something, that's what, if you're looking for prior to that, you're not going to find it. Like right now, we work together. It looks different. And when we sit down and identify all of the ways that we do work together, it's amazing. But we discount things, and it's just like when people say that we're not philanthropists. We are absolutely philanthropists. It just looks different. So you get whatever you're expecting. So you have to speak differently. That's all.
Thank you. Very good. I like that. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Thank you, Monique. Anyone else? one of the things I had thought about for today,
Hold on, I got a
hoping,
question or a comment too. I apologize for interrupting. You can go ahead and finish your thought.
no, I'm about to go in a different direction. So, well, not a different direction, but kind of, sort of. So go ahead. I apologize to you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to comment too, working together. It's been taught, we as a race, we try to work together, but also it's been kind of taught in the churches too, because you know how some churches have cliques, the haves and the have-nots. And I've experienced it, but I tell you, when I came to Greater New Faith, I have never met a great set of people. You know, everybody is one. All of us come out of the traditional setting, the church setting, but there was a particular church where there were cliques. And then if you didn't jump and shout or you didn't dress a certain way, they didn't fool with you. So I think the divide starts there too.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
And that's part of the brainwashing, if you will. We've been taught to be divided. We've been taught to look for the things that separate us. This based on skin color, hair texture, the kind of cars we drive, the type of jobs we have. We've been taught to do that and to feel less than each other because this one is that, and we that has been for too long a comfortable part of our communities. So you're exactly right. And again, I give what we do tremendous credit. And I think it has tremendous value. So although we are small in number, I think the recovery of truth is enough enlightenment to illuminate a large area. So this is going to, start to ignite something more than we realize. Which leads me into the next part of it is the reason why it was so important to look at masculine and feminine energy and the dance that they play, that relationship with each other and how that brings balance. I wanted to talk about what does balance look like to us. We've been down this road before where we talked about this, but I saw some things. I read this article that talked about the struggle that women have finding balance. And part of that was, as the article puts it, we've been taught that balance is a work-home type of thing, relationship. And so what we see as balancing is becoming masculine in order so that we can compete on the playing fields at work. And that, as somebody put it earlier, that also becomes a competition at home. So that you are living in a place of conflict and agitation at every turn, and it is hard to find balance in that. You are having to be competitive at work to show that not only that you belong, but that my ideals are worthy, and this the things and goals that I set will be achieved. Not can be, they will be achieved. And you come home with that edge because there may not be harmony there because there is a type of competition there as well. So where are we with that? Do you see that, or as we move in a spiritual direction, there are some attributes that I was looking at as far as what that balance looks like. And a big one is some of the lessons that we've already had. But the big one that I saw was understanding when S went over those 8 senses, that intuitiveness, those reflections, those meditations, and learning how to breathe, knowing how to pray. All of those, if you will, are attributes of femininity. And so the beauty of it is we didn't see it that way because it didn't matter. We're trying to grow into being the best beings that we can, the best spiritual beings that we can. Another attribute of femininity, I was thinking of this as several people were talking, is to be still. You set that meditation, you set those goals, and you learn to breathe. You just be still. Just take a day, take an hour out of the day, and just be still. Don't get agitated. Just breathe all that away. So the battle, if you will, as we learn to be balanced, the half the battle cannot be us battling ourselves. And I don't mean that just as on the feminine aspect, even our masculinity is what gets in the way and gets us into pushing into hard judgments that lead us in the opposite direction. But does this part make sense to you guys? See this portion of it? We want to learn to be balanced, and what does that look like? And you know, that place of consciousness, because when we talk about consciousness, and that's another part, living in the now, being in the now. And in the now is an intuitive thing, not looking at what is external, what my sister has, what my brother has. My brother, one of the things that really threw me for a loop is my youngest brother just retired. He was telling me about some of his tax problems based on how much money he has. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, do I really want to hear this? But I had to catch myself. You know, I don't have what he has. And, you know, it did catch me for a minute, and I had to kind of reel myself back. But it is easy. That masculine part sees the external stuff, sees what somebody else close to you has, and it always seems like the thing that you might be, that you consider anyway a struggle, is what somebody else is thriving in. So all of this is balance and showing you where you are and what you need to do to gain balance. But any questions or comments on any of this?
Ron, this is Evelyn again.
Yeah.
I had to tell myself I need to stop looking with my eyes, EYES, instead of my eye. The more I learn to start looking with my eye, I can see that there's a bigger picture. And things happen on the surface so we can look with our eye. It's something totally different when we start looking spiritually with our eye. So that's something I'm programming myself to start doing. Things may not look the way that I think the way they should look or the way that it looks. I got to start looking within and looking with my eye. That'll keep me from having bad thoughts, preconceived ideas, and shaping things. And like we normally say, just be, keep evolving and growing and just learning who you are. And we will make ourselves, we won't be depressed. We won't, we'll have sleep at night, because I think that's a lot of reasons why we have illnesses. We're so busy worrying about what's going to happen the next minute till, we just lose sight of what's happening in the moment. So the minute we start realizing, okay, it's a bigger picture. It may not look the way I want it to look or be the way I want it to be, but there's nothing that God wants us to go through unnecessarily. But that's all I'm going to say for today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Very, very, very wise comments.
Ron?
Greatly appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Can you state your question again? Because I'm thinking, are you asking how can women be balanced in a male-dominated society?
No, I was using that.
What was your question?
I was using that as an example. I was using it as an example when we hear and talk about the word balance. It automatically think of home and work, a work-home kind of relationship. And I was saying for women, what this article was showing was how masculine they were, because you have to be in this type of society. And I was just using it as an example that you don't recognize what you have become, so you can be competitive or get your views and your, make the amount of money that you want to make. And how, if you don't learn how to release that, how that can create conflict at home. It also make men overbearing, especially minority men, because they get in the same type of mode. I got to be competitive. I got to be this or I got to be that. And it puts us in a certain place. So what does your balance look? I was just using that as an example.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of a brainwashing again right there too. But yeah, I totally agree with Evelyn that whether male or female, how do you get to that place of balance? And it's exactly what Evelyn was saying. You start to see things with your eye instead of your eyes. And it doesn't matter what gender, we all need to be doing the same things to get to balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And you're exactly right. I was using my brother for example, because what I was saying in that was sometimes things happen to me, or I see things that kind of surprise me. I'll say, I thought I was further along than that, or I'm surprised this bothers me, or why are you concerned with that? Kind of questions I ask myself, because things that I think, that happen in my life to show me exactly where I am and put me back in focus. So, and that was, one of them, one of those things that kind of helped me to refocus. But yeah, you're exactly right. And understanding that, as you guys have said, being balanced is a totally spiritual thing. It is a totally spiritual thing. So, and I even, I had limited notes, but to go back and look at the lesson that Barbara did on being equally yoked. What are you yoked with? What is dominating you? So I just another opportunity for self-reflections as we look at this and talk about this dance with light and darkness, with heaven and earth, and with good and evil. Where are we? What do you see when you look internally at self?
Ron, I'd just like to add that the bringing the balance or becoming balanced, it is a process. Just like Evelyn said, learning to look with your eye instead of your eyes. It is a process, and the struggle is real sometimes, but we'll get there if we just keep practicing it. and what we put out there, it definitely will manifest itself. I just wanted to add that, but it is definitely a process.
Thank you. You are exactly right. Yeah, and I really think we are closer than we think. Some years ago we were looking at scripture and we were looking at Jesus and we were saying, what is he building? What is he making? It looked like he haphazardly healed this person. He raised this one from the dead. He healed the little girl, the issue of blood. He did all these things. The woman at the well, and it looks like, okay, just from a religious perspective, he just haphazardly, they happen to be over in this town, in this area, in this town. But all those places have a name and they have a purpose, and even the people have a name and a purpose. So if you're looking, all of those things is a spiritual strengthening of who we are, and we're walking the same journey. That's what the journey of Abraham is about. It's a journey, as you just said, this process, and it is not marked by time. It is marked by our willingness and ability to understand and see what is before us. So I like the journey. I like where we are. I like the people that I'm going on the journey with. This is earth-changing stuff, and I appreciate the fact that the Creator has allow us to continue this task. So I agree. I hope this has made sense. I don't want to keep you guys just to keep you. If you understand any other questions on masculine and feminine energy and where we are, does it make sense? Do you see it through the eyes of creation? Do you see it through the eyes of, even though they're both male, Cain and Abel represent the dance of masculine and feminine energy. Leah and Rachel, both females, represent the dance of masculine and feminine energy, bringing balance to what that boy named Jacob. I mean, we see all kind of examples of it. Jacob and Esau. One is earthly and one is spiritual. I mean, we just see examples of it. So what we see in all those is not the gender, but we're able to capture the essence of their being and see what the enlightenment is that they're showing us. And that's what it's all about. So again, I hope this makes sense to you. And if not, write it down and we will discuss it till we all gain understanding.
And Ron?
Yes, sir.
SC, I just want to add this. SC sent me a note. He's in listen only mode, but he said not only do we need truth, but we also need to recognize connection and rhythm in our relation. And I think he was meaning in our relationships with each other.
Okay, yeah. Okay. That may be a good starting point for tomorrow or next time. Let him break that down for us.
And Ron, this is Angela. Can I share something right quick? It's not gonna take long.
Of course you can.
Okay. I'm just going to give an example. We're talking about masculine and feminine energy. So in the department where I work at is more women, well, only one man really in the department, which is the male supervisor, and other workers, I say 6 or 7 is females. So we have to lift a lot of heavy, well, sometimes lift heavy boxes. So me and another lady went up to the supervisor and we asked them, say, is it possible that you could get some males to come over here and like help? And so he looked at us and he was like, well, I don't want you to get the idea to think that because y'all as women, y'all can't do it. I said, no, I'm not saying that we can't do it. And he said, well, if I bring some men over here, they might be looking at like y'all putting all the work on them. And I said, no, I'm saying we can help each other. It balance it out, but he didn't see it in that way. He saw it as a other way, saying that we couldn't do it, but that's not what we were saying. We were actually asking for help. So it was balanced off, but then he came back later that evening before we left and was talking about us being in unity and helping one another. But when I posed that question earlier, he didn't say yeah to it, but in his perspective, the way he wanted us to do the thing. So I think we were trying to balance it out between male to female, and he was trying to, use his masculine energy to oppose the way that he wanted things to go instead of just keeping it balanced. That's what I wanted to share.
I guess one of the things I get from what you're saying, and if somebody else sees something different, please feel free. But one of the things I see is that you planted a seed in it. He came back later. In other words, he thought about what you said. Not sure what action or if any action that'll lead to, but he at least given some thought to it. A seed was planted in his mind. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But thank you. I appreciate your sharing.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Well, if there's nothing else to grab our attention, once again, I hope we got a thought from this. I hope it made sense. And we will have opportunity to visit again tomorrow, or move to in another direction. I don't know, but I look forward to seeing you tomorrow afternoon at 6. So I hope you have a great day. I think it's supposed to be in the mid-70s here. So should be a pretty day out. So get out and enjoy a little bit of the day and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Everybody have a good.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everybody.